Demon Souls, the spiritual predecessor of the highly successful Dark Souls, which is now getting a direct sequel in the aptly named Dark Souls 2, which I'll probably hate for stupid reasons. I see myself staring at it, sitting on the shelf, yelling, "No, not canon in my fanfiction. No, no," until I pass out. And then I'll enjoy it anyway. But this is about Demon Souls, which was kind of a sleeper hit that was imported a lot from Japan because it was in English anyway, and the PS3 is region free. Later, it even got an American and a European release because of its success. Clearly, since this is a game even more not for everyone than Dark Souls, which was already more of that than the majority of the modern games, I reckon a more emotional type of review would be the best for this game. But since my ID says I'm German, I obviously neither possess emotions nor a sense of humor, so here goes. After a rather lengthy bit of exposition you probably won't care about because it's a slideshow, you get dropped right inside the first area with minimal explanation. You traveled through some fog to reach some land clouded in said fog, and now it's time to tear this game apart, right? You start weak and meek. The game does a great job of making you feel alone and helpless in a truly bleak world. You're not an established badass or legendary warrior, just some guy or gal who maybe stepped into the wrong neighborhood. While often rated as ridiculously hard, I'd say the gameplay is just punishing enough to make you fear for your death around the next corner while walking down the dark hallway with your shield up. It makes you want to be slow and methodical, but it's also forgiving enough to allow one mistake, maybe two, or even 10 in the beginning of the game, just to ease you into it. But don't worry about dying too much, you're a ghost anyway. The combat system and the controls in general are fairly simple, and you should be able to pick up the basics by going through the tutorial area. Don't worry, there's no lack of depth here. There's little tricks you'll pick up along the way, and they will make a difference, trust me. While mastering these and various other mechanics is important to success in Souls games, to me at least, they haven't been about the mechanics and the gameplay as much as the average review might make you believe. Don't get me wrong, I love the gameplay, but there's one thing especially Demon Souls excels at. The game's atmosphere is probably its biggest strong point. It's scary. A different kind of scary than, say, Silent Hill or Amnesia, which try to wear you down with a constant darkness and sense of dread building up more and more. In Demon Souls, while it comes in a large part from the setting of the game's 5 areas, which you can play in any order you want due to its hub-based nature, the gameplay itself actually adds a lot to that feeling of solitude and fear. Not because of purposely bad controls or by limiting your options. To the contrary, actually, you're always in control, and you have the tools you need. You just might not know it. For some people, this is a big problem. Demon Souls, much like its spiritual successor, often gets criticized for being cryptic, for not telling the player enough in terms of gameplay and story. Personally, I'm one of the people who enjoy this. I'm a relic of old times that yearns back to an age before game FAQs, before everyone knew everything about a game like a week after it came out. Demon Souls has this sense of mystery, and even after playing the game several times and employing the help of the wiki, I still don't think I found all the secrets. It kind of reminds me of, well, playing Zelda back in the day. Sadly, there is a dark side to that. There is this thing called the world tendency system, which is never really explained, and it tends to punish players who aren't as good at the game, and not in the good way. I mentioned you're a ghost in the game earlier, right? Well, in this spirit form, you have half health. Unless you use a special item, then you have 70% of your health. Well, good thing though, you can get back your physical form by defeating bosses or using special items and get back to full health that way. Now, as a new player, this is obviously your preferred state. Too bad that this world tendency thing shifts towards black when you die in your physical form, which makes the game harder. If you die too much, it gets to pure black and gets very hard. The only way to make the game easier and revert back to white is to defeat bosses or do other specific things, all of which you can only do once. If you know about this and how to manipulate it, it's not much of a problem. In fact, you can very much use it to your advantage. But there's no way of knowing that without looking it up. It's a neat mechanic in theory. If you're all the way black or white, new parts of the areas unlock, allowing access to special items. But they kinda got it backwards by making the game harder if you die. It makes sense within the game's lore, but from a design standpoint it's severely flawed. Which is why they ditched it altogether for Dark Souls in favor of a more emergent type of difficulty selection, which most players didn't even notice. So, From Software learned from their mistake, much like players of the game will learn from their mistakes while playing. A lot of these mistakes, of course, might occur during the game's numerous boss battles, which, despite not necessarily being the hardest part of the game, always feel climatic, and every boss brings something new to the table. I don't want to spoil too much, but it never feels like you're just fighting the same guy using a different model. And even the more straightforward bosses try to mix it up. Plus, there's always multiple ways to deal with them. Boss fights are also the only times in the game when music plays, and it uses this music to great effect. And hey, if you have trouble with a boss, just get help. The game is a massively multiplayer single-player game, which is an oxymoron and I'm aware of that. But it makes sense, trust me. Demon's Souls has a rather unique multiplayer system. As long as you're in your physical form, you can summon other players into your instance of the world to help you as a blue phantom. Naturally, there's also hostile players. You don't summon them. They invade you as red phantoms. Of course, you can do the same two things as long as you're in your spirit form and use the corresponding item. And while the community isn't as bustling as it used to be, you can still get in some decent co-op or PvP if you know where to look. The truly unconventional aspect of this is though that you can't just get your friends to play with you very easily because it's fairly random who you summon or who you will invade. So understandably, this is a turn-off for a lot of players. But personally, I don't mind. Because I'm not much of a multiplayer person anyway. By which I mean, I don't have any friends. Before we wrap this up, let me get a little bit into the story of Demon's Souls. The part of it the game tells you outright is fairly minimal. And I remarked about how you might as well just skip the cutscene in the beginning of the game if you don't care about it, because the game doesn't get much deeper into it. At least not by any conventional means. A lot of the game's story is hidden. Even more of it is just implied. Hell, parts of it just speculation from characters within the game. I mentioned that the game is a little bit cryptic. This applies especially to the story. There's very little it tells you right out in the face, but a lot that you might stumble upon if you look in the right places. Check flavor text of items, examine the environment, and read between the lines basically. Now, I like the story, but I have to admit, if it were told in a more conventional way, I would probably be bored by it. But the way it is presented makes it interesting to me, because you have to puzzle it together yourself, giving you a sense of satisfaction not only for overcoming gameplay challenges, but also for discovering a new puzzle piece of the game's lore. Now, I told you a bit of what I like about the game and also highlighted some flaws, but I reckon many people have one question aside from, is this game for me? And that would be, is this game too hard for me? I am one of the many people who were intimidated at first, hearing about the game. It's brutal, I've been told, and you die in just one hit. But this is greatly exaggerated. One-shots are incredibly rare, and can basically only happen if you fight naked and don't level up your health. Especially in the beginning, the game cuts you a lot of slack, because it knows no one jumps out of the womb and is instantly awesome, so don't worry about that. After the first area, the game even gives you the option of exploring 5 areas of roughly the same difficulty, just in case one of them or more just wreck you because they don't suit your playstyle or for different reasons. If what you've just seen and what I just told you made you think, man, this game could be for me, then it most likely is something you'll enjoy a lot. So go on and get it on PSN or buy a hard copy if you can get one. And hey, guess what? If you like Dark Souls, you'll like this one as well. It's a little less polished, but that's about to be expected. You still won't have any trouble adjusting. I, for one, was really glad I got this game back when it was first released in Europe, because it shows me that there's still games out there that manage to be difficult without being unfair, and games that can do a thing just as simple as immersing you without an overabundance of cutscenes, and games that I just keep coming back to, no matter how many times I've already been through them. And I'm glad it got noticed, and was successful enough to spawn a spiritual sequel that's also getting a sequel of its own. I could probably go on for a bit more here, but I think I'll just stop now.